She used her lesbian lover and co-worker to unalive her husband so that they could be together. This is the story of Elizabeth and Michael Turpin and her fatal seduction. On February the 2nd, 1986, Michael Turpin was found unalived in his home due to multiple stab wounds. His wife, Elizabeth Turpin, who wasn't at home that night prior, who didn't make it home to the next day, came home the next day and reported him missing. Elizabeth and Michael Turpin was from Lexington, Kentucky, and they married 6 months prior to Michael's unaliving. Now, Miss Elizabeth here was known to be a wild party girl. Everybody knew it, and marriage did not slow her down. She was all about the luxury, material, and the attention. And it seems like she would do anything to get what she wanted. Very manipulative and vindictive individual. Now, within this time, Elizabeth started working at this car dealership where she was a car salesman. This is where she met Karen Brown and Keith Butcher. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. Elizabeth formed a relationship with the two, and she began hanging out nonstop with them. Even so deep to where Karen and she bond was very close and deeper than what we knew. Now, Michael here, Elizabeth's husband, he was just this homebody good guy who went to work and tried to have some. He knew he couldn't stop his wife, and people would tell him, like, things that Elizabeth would be doing and suspected of her. But it seems like Michael just enjoyed being with Elizabeth. And it also seems like Michael just really wanted his marriage to work. But Elizabeth, she was fired. And on February 3rd, 1986, you would find Michael Turpin unalived in his home due to multiple stab wounds. Now, the night prior, around by 7 o'clock, Elizabeth had told Mike she was going out on the town and don't wait up for her. Elizabeth, she went out and she hung out and she did not come back till the next day. When Elizabeth made it home, she noticed that her husband, Michael, wasn't there and that she called and reported him missing to the police. The next day, on February the 4th, 1986, Michael was found unalive on the lakeside golf course in town. He was found by one of the park employees and he had been missing for 2 days. Now, upon the discovering of the unaliving, the police called in Elizabeth to discuss some things, but they didn't suspect her of anything at the moment. But Elizabeth started doing a little bit too much talk. Elizabeth went to talking about how Michael was abusive towards her. He wasn't the person that we thought that he was. He was like an undercover drug kingpin for a mafia family boss, some type of stuff like that. That his family just really did not know who Michael really was. Now, Elizabeth was really downplaying this marriage, like she was just afraid for her life and she just wanted to be out of it, how Michael was not a good person. But really, Elizabeth was the one that had the ulterior motive. Miss Elizabeth had told the police that she had went out around by 7 o'clock, did not return home to the next morning because she had been drinking and she did not want to get out on the road drinking and driving, going home, having anything to happen to her. So Elizabeth told them that she stayed over at her friend's Karen Brown house that night, apartment with roomed up and shacked up with her, and that's where she was until she made it home the next morning and found Michael unalive. Now, Karen Brown here was more than happy to go down and cooperate the same story that Elizabeth was giving to the police. But the roommates, kind of helped out with this situation because they went down and they told them that some suspicious things was going on with Keith and Karen, who's all roommates as well. They had told them that they seen Keith and Karen at the car wash kind of like washing out the inside of the car. They had also said that they had saw blood on Keith's shoes and his clothing. So upon receiving that information, the Lexington Police Department, they called them back like, hey, we just want to ask you some questions. And they end up like doing the inspection and searching the car. Upon searching the car, that's where they found, now this was Karen car they searching. This is where they found blood traces and traces of bleach from cleaning as well. So it's like the police go in saying, got you, okay, we need to understand what's going on, what's the real story. So Miss Karen here, she tried to break down and say, hey, Elizabeth was the mastermind. We was all in it together. Elizabeth was the mastermind. I was the getaway driver, and Keith was the murderer. But Keith like, if I go down, you going down too. Keith said no. That night when Elizabeth was gone, she had already concocted us to go over there to her house and unalive Michael. We approached the home because we knew Michael was there alone. When Michael opened the door, we rushed. Keith said me and Karen, I did the stabbing. Karen was holding him down while I stabbed him multiple times. Once done, we got up out of there. Of course, y'all know Miss Elizabeth in this thing trying to act like she don't know what's going on. But really, she did not put her hands on anything. But she is just as guilty as sin, because why was this done? Now, finding out about the situation, Miss Elizabeth had taken out a $60,000 life insurance policy a couple days prior to Michael's unaliving. Suspicious. And the plan was to collect that money and split it amongst her, Karen, and Keith. But access denied. And that's when stuff started coming out the woodworks. Like, hey, the night before, we already knew Elizabeth and Karen had something going on, because the night before at a party, it's like Elizabeth and Karen was out on the dance floor and they shared a real passionate kiss. And it's like Michael knew about this. And I think the stuff was about to get on the rocks. Michael probably was finna can Elizabeth, because he probably was tired of her promiscuous ways. But this trial moved fast, y'all, because in a few days they was going to court. And on February the 10th, 1986, all three of them was found guilty of the unaliving of Michael Turpin. Good for him. Now, there's a book on this situation called Fatal Seduction. I read this book right here when I was in the 10th grade. Loved it. This is where I get the story from. Now, when they sent off to prison, it is said that, Miss Elizabeth tried to keep in contact with Karen, but Karen, it's like, I feel like she was mad because her life was miserable. There's a new updated book on this situation. And in the book, it states that they all three was denied like their final parole, and they were not able to get out, so they will be spending the rest of their lives in prison. And that Elizabeth final parole, because she had got married again to a man in 2002, 2012, and that she was trying to use the man money to get other inmates hurt. So that's what got her final denied. But all of them will spend their life in prison. Rest in peace to Michael. Elizabeth got exactly what she deserved. She wanted to be a lady of the streets. Now she can run them streets in them big bug sheep.